Welcome back. In this video, we shall learn about the useState hook in React. If you remember, we used to define states in class-based components and also update or change our states using the setStates function. And that was only possible in a class-based component, right? Well, with React hooks, we can use the useState hook to define and set states in our functional components. So first of all, let's use the class-based components to show if a user is logged in or not. Then I will use the useState hook in a functional component to do the same thing so we can understand what I am saying properly. So first, in my index.js file, I'll import React, and I import React DOM here, and I'll say React DOM.render, and I'll put in my component here, which is app, which I haven't created, and I'll say documents.getElement by ID, and I'll pass in root there. Then let's head over to our app.jsx file. Let's import React component, and let's say app here. Let's save that. Now let's go back to our index.js file, and let's import app from our app file, which is app there. Save that, go back here, and let's get rid of this state because we shall be using the constructor method there. Let's just pass the div here. Now save that. So to continue, let's come here, let's pass it our constructor, which is going to take a super function, and it's going to take this dot state, which will be set to is logged in, which will be true for now. Let's save that. Then in our render method, let's declare a logged in status here, and let's pass in an if statement that says if this dot state dot is logged in is true, then let's our logged in status is set to you are logged in, or else let our logged in status be set to you are logged out. So just something basic. Then let's come over here to our JSX. In our JSX, we are going to pass in logged in status. So pass in curly braces there, and we say logged in status. Now let's run our server to see what we have displayed on our screen. And to run our server, we say npm start, and our server is running perfectly. So let's head over to our browser and let's access localhost on port 3000. As we all can see right here, it's saying you are logged in, and that's because our state is set to true. So if I change this to false and I come back here, you see it says you are logged out. So we are going to achieve this using functional components and the useState hook. So let's get rid of everything here. So the first thing to do, let's type in RFCE and hit tab or enter. This has created a boilerplate for us. So the first thing to do, let's come over here, let's import the useState function. After importing the useState function, we'll come over here in our arrow function, and we are going to say const with our first array variable there, which is log, and set log. So we are going to set this to our useState function that we imported, and we are going to say is logged in set to true. So we are going to come down here and we'll say let's log stat, just like our logged in status variable in our class-based component. So here we are saying log stats, so let's log stats, and we just define that, and we'll pass in an if statement that will say if log.isLoggedIn is true, let log stats, which we have here, be set to you are logged in, else let log stats be set to you are logged out. Save that. So let's go over to our JSX, which is in our return block here, and let's pass in log stats. That's it. Now let's save that. Let's go back to our server to see if everything is running well. As you can see, we have just one warning, which is telling us that we have not made use of the set log variable here, and that's just a warning, not an error. So we can just let that be, or we can just take that out. Now come back to our server. Everything is compiled successfully. So let's head back to our browser to see what we have. As you can see, it says you are logged in, and that's because this boolean here is set to true. So if we take this out and set it to false, you see it says you are logged out. So let's go back and let's pass in set log just the way we had it before. Now this is us doing the same thing we did using the class-based components, but this time around we did it using the useState hook in a functional component, not a class-based component. So let me explain what we have here. In our import statement first, we imported the useState function. And note that if this import is not present, you will not be able to use the useState hook here. Then after that, we created a functional component using the ES6 arrow function method. In our function, we initialize state like so. This is us initializing states, similar to what we used to do in our constructor method, but this time we are using the array deconstructor method by creating an array here with two items inside. The first one is going to represent our states that we will initialize, and the second one will represent the set state function. So the second one here will be used to update or change the value of the first one. So to make it easy, just look at both of these as states and set states. Then we set these equal to the useState function. Inside the useState, we will pass an object of our state variables and values like so. Is logged in set to true. So instead of having this.states, we have useStates. So in our if statement here, we have if log.isLoggedIn is set to true. The reason why we're using log.isLoggedIn is because, like I said, log represents the states and set log represents set states. So when calling the states, we have to use log to make the call to confirm to our code that we are calling a state object. Just like the class-based components, we can have more than one object here, and all we will have to do is to use log to call any of them we want to call. So if we had something like is inside set to true, and we want to check the boolean value of is inside in this if statement, we are going to say log dot is inside. So that's why we are using log.isLoggedIn. So if we have multiple variables here, so log will be used to access all of them. Let's get rid of this. Take note also, the words log and set log are not default words. You can choose to name them anything you wish. You can call them my log, set my log, my book, set my book, anything you wish to call them. So you can see the rest of the code is still the same as what we had in our class-based components, which is this, which is our JSX. We shall see another example on how to use the useState hook in React. In this example, we shall make use of the setState variable in our array deconstructor, which is this setLog here. First, let's say I want to use the class-based component to create a button and a counter that will add 1 every time the button is clicked. I'm going to say, let's get rid of this and let's start from scratch again so that everyone is going to follow properly. And let's pass an app there, and let's get rid of this state here. Here we are going to pass in the constructor method, which is going to take the super function first, and we are going to set state here. Set state is going to be set to count, which is 0. So let's pass in a div here, and let's get rid of that error. So in our div, we are going to say, let's pass in a h4 tag there, and in our h4 tag, let's say this.state.count, which is 0, right? Then let's pass in the button tag that is going to say click me. Now let's go to our server to see if everything is running well. Everything is fine. Let's go to our browser. Okay, we have an error here. This is not set states. This is states, not set states. Sorry for that error. Now let's go to our browser to see what we have. As you can see, we have 0 and click me. When I click on this button, nothing happens. Now let's go back to our VS Code to make the button active. And the first thing we are going to do is to pass in an onClick function that is going to be set to, let's call this click change. This is a method we are going to create outside the render method. So let's say click change. Let's go outside and let's create the click change method, and let's open that. Don't forget to say this.clickChange, because this is a foreign method to the render method. Now in our click change method, we are going to set states with this.setState, and in this.setState we are going to pass in pre-state, which is an arrow function which will return an object of count set to pre-state dot count plus 1. Now there is one thing remaining here that we haven't done, and that is to bind our method to the constructor method. The method that holds our set state method, we are going to bind that to the constructor method like so. So let's save that. Now let's check our server to see what's happening there. Everything is running fine on our server. Let's go back to the browser to see what we have. Now when I click this, you see it increases by 1. Now this is me using the class-based component structure and the setState function to achieve this. Now let us achieve this using the hooks method. Let's get rid of everything here, and let's have our boilerplate. Let's say RFCE, and we press enter, and we come here and we import useState, and let's come here to create in our arrow function. Let's say, let's define count. Let's say my count. Let's set it to 0, and beneath that let's say const count and set count. It's just conventional for us to use set count or set anything that you stated here. So if we had ball here, we are going to say set ball. It's just conventional. Now let's set this to useState, and in our useState function we are going to pass in my count. Currently my count is set to 0. Now the next thing to do, let's come into our JSX, and let's pass in a h4 tag like we did in our class-based components, and let's pass in count. Currently, what is count? We are going to find out. Now, beneath the h4 tag, let's pass in our button tag that is going to say click me, just like the one we just did previously. And in our button tag, we are going to pass the onClick function, and we are going to set it to click change also. Let's call this click change. Let's save that. Now let's go to our browser to see what we have. As you can see, it says click change is not defined. It means we have not created the method click change. So let's come here. Outside the return block, let's create a function click change. It's going to be an arrow function. So we are going to say set count. So as you can see, we are using set count the way we used set state in our class-based components. So we are going to use set count here to update the value of count. So we are going to say set count, and let's set this to previous count, prev count, which is an arrow function also. And we are going to return, so we are going to say prev count plus 1. Now let's save that. Now let's go to our server to see what we have. Here in our server, compiled successfully. Let's go to our browser to see what we have. As you can see, if I click on it, it increments by 1, just the same way it was incrementing by 1 when we used the class-based component to do this. So all I did here was to use prev count to access the previous value of count, which is 0. And count is 0 because count here is our state, and state is defined inside this parenthesis, and what we have here, which is my count, is 0. So let us go over that again. Prev count is used to access the value of count, and count is our state here, which is set in our useState function as my count, and the value of my count is 0. When somebody clicks on this button, this event is fired. The onClick event is fired. When the onClick event is fired, it triggers the click change method, which is this. In the click change method, set count is run. When set count is run, it accesses prev count, and prev count is the previous count. So prev count accesses count, which is our state, and our state is defined in the parenthesis of the useState function, which is my count. Our state, which is my count, is set to 0. What happens in our click change method is that when it accesses prev count is 0. It comes here and it returns prev count plus 1. So the counting begins. After the first click, prev count becomes 1. 0 plus 1 is 1. When you click the button again, the same thing happens, the same process is run over again, and prev count, which is now 1, adds 1 again to itself, and it becomes 2. So this is how to use functional components and hooks in React to manage states. Just go over this video once more. Whatever you don't understand clearly, say it in the comment section. I'll be there to respond to every questions you have. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to share.